system the AfD is currently having all their bank accounts systematically blocked. At least that's how it looks right now. I hadn't really been paying attention to that. I've been keeping an eye on it from time to time. In the meantime, I've been reading a bit here and there. I just got sent a new article saying that accounts belonging to the AfD are being closed again. We've system on here. It's no longer a coincidence. It really looks like there's a coordinated attack behind this. They want people here who may not be the mainstream. Spread narratives, people who might deviate from the status quo. Are they trying to systematically take people down here? And what is the easiest option? To systematically take people down here. That's obviously about cutting off their financial resources by simply closing the accounts. And I just realized I said that a bit wrong. I noticed it while editing. Not all accounts have been blocked, of course. But here, relevant numbers are being held on accounts, and more accounts are still being blocked until eventually all the accounts are blocked. I don't know. And what's happening here is absolutely outrageous. And it's not about that. Are you pro-AfD or are you against the AfD? And we're going to take a look at exactly what's happening here. But it's really about something else, that they're interfering with people's financial self-determination. You can see it very negatively. On the other hand, it's going to bring a lot of people to Bitcoin in the long run. That means we're seeing exactly the same actions. That happened in the USA with Operation Chalkpoint 2.0, where a lot of people were massively canceled by Joe Biden and so on, taken out of the banks. These were people who had something to do with Bitcoin or crypto. In Germany, it's not necessarily because of crypto or Bitcoin, but in Germany, it seems that if you spread the wrong political narratives or something like that, and like I said, it's not about trying to defend the AfD in any way or something like that, but it's about the fact that you have to be careful here. What opinions people have here and then how those opinions get canceled. That the banks are basically being shut down. I think I need to tell you all, don't tell me that this is exactly the power of Bitcoin, that we have censorship-resistant money here that can't just be censored. Doesn't matter. Vote for the AfD, whether you're green, blue, whatever CDU, who cares? What kind of political stance do you have? With Bitcoin, no one can cancel you. Right now, I'm not sure if this is a campaign poster or election advertising. I don't know what it is. For sure, something was sent to me here. Volksbank cancels AfD, NRW, all accounts. And then it says down here in big letters, AfD underneath. We've system even says down here, now donate via PayPal. That's obviously not the solution, getting your account canceled like that. And then you switch over. Did how right? I mean, the right move would definitely be to switch to Bitcoin now. The AfD has also started to embrace Bitcoin. I mean, it should probably just be the right people here. Just teach the folks in NRW a bit about Bitcoin. Go to the people and show them the power of Bitcoin. But that's not what this is about, whether they accept donations in Bitcoin or PayPal or something like that. It's really about the systematic closing of accounts, because in the end, that's really the simplest way to basically take out the opponents. That means we've system attack people with arguments, then it's obviously a hassle. You have to argue with them. You also need good arguments or something like that. But when you just cancel people's accounts without even giving reasons, then those people are basically rendered powerless. They can hardly have any companies anymore, having trouble funding their party and stuff like that. And that's how it happens that in this democratic exchange, they don't end up pushing through the best ideas. We've system it's the ideas that maybe are the ideas that are best funded, the ideas that are best promoted, and so on. But if you can't promote your ideas, and now it's not about evaluating whether the ideas are good or bad. If you can't promote your ideas, if you don't have any financial means here, then you have a massive disadvantage here. And that's also partly how we end up with very, very one-sided political opinions. Then, of course, it's also framed in the media that, for example, there's also some kind of witch hunt going on in the media against certain political factions and so on. And that might deny us free choice here. We don't have one here. In the end, having a free choice, that means a lot of people think we have a free choice here and that we can decide freely. And so on. We've system that may be true, but if the media is not free here, if finances are not free here, if we're being manipulated by the media, if we're being manipulated by banks, then in my opinion, at least from my perspective, you can feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. We don't really have a free choice here. And that's obviously a total game changer. We've system a brand new article about this. It says here on January 30th, Volksbank cancels the AfD's account in the Hawks district. And it's not about the district here. You can check it out online here. Here you have areas, NRW. Dusseldorf. Who knows? Now, in the Hawks district, they're canceling the account. The party reacts a year later. Then they let a year go by, reacts here a year later. And then it says here, months ago, Volksbank canceled an account for the party in Hochstift. The AfD is only now publicly attacking the banks. Meanwhile, extremist structures also have accounts in OWL. That's also worth mentioning. We've systemically disastrous here is, we've see a lot of parallels to the US because in the US, basically the same thing has happened. We've systematically seen over 2 or 3 years in the Biden administration how those who think differently were persecuted. Those were the people who had something to do with crypto, with Bitcoin, or people with hemp or with weapons and stuff. Their accounts would just be closed here too, and no reasons would be given. People were left standing there without an account. They could use cash, but dealing with cash can be tricky sometimes. These days, and when you have, let's say, larger corporate structures here, and so on, when you have to pay rent, when you have to pay for electricity, whatever, it can get really, really tough to get by with cash here. And then there was the big podcast where Martin was here with Joe Rogan talking about those who think differently, and then really brought the whole thing to light. In the US, it's called Operation Shockpoint 2.0. I don't think there's a name for that in Germany right now because I believe it hasn't gained enough relevance yet, since people haven't really grasped it. What's going on here, that you think differently, they're being partially ostracized. It's not just about the AfD now. For example, I also did an interview with Martin Sellner. He had like 98 banks or something cancel on him. And like I said, you can always discuss things here, 9 points. Whether you think his views are good or bad, or whether you think the views of the AfD are good or bad. Thing like, that's not what it's about at all. It's really about the fact that we should have freedom of speech here, that we should also accept people who think differently here, and that we can't just say, hey, I've just found the Holy Grail here, and I know exactly what's right and wrong. Found the Holy Grail, and now I know for sure what's right and wrong. And anyone who steps out of line here, we just cancel their account. We've just another report here. The Volksbank has closed the account of the AfD Dusseldorf. But as Bufo member Gottschalk points out, not just him, but also the AfD associations in Wurst and Neuss, various district factions, and the district association. So, as you can see here, it's really making a big splash. These aren't just isolated account cancellations, it's really almost like organized account closures. And here it also says this, the Volksbank is currently going. From my perspective, and based on what I know, it seems to be structured. This is also the case with the accounts of the First District Association and the Neuss District Association. The accounts of the District Association blah 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 and other district factions of the AfD NRW have been terminated. I will inform the BaFin about every account closure that has occurred in the advisory board. So here's another opinion that also assumes this, that it is quasi-systematic. Account closures are because people simply want to put down those who think differently or any kind of opposition or something like that. And like I said, with money, you can control people the best. Central banks know this too. That's why there's no free competition, no free currency competition. You can't just freely choose your currency here by paying here, but rather you're basically forced to. You also have to pay your taxes here in US dollars or in euros, depending on where you are, at least using fiat money. We've system further down here. Debanking is a special kind of election campaign. The Volksbank Dusseldorf is terminating an account for the AfD. Dusseldorf just around half past. The accounts right in the heat of the Bundestag election campaign for 2025. And we're not the only AfD group affected by this debanking in NRW. So they're really talking about debanking on a large scale now. The funny thing about the whole situation is, I already mentioned this in my video where I talked about Alice Weidel, where she said that she owns Bitcoin. In another interview, she talked about how the euro is going to fail, that the euro is going to crash and so on, at least if things keep going this way. On top of that, if you're a member of the AfD here, that banks are being shut down here. That means the significance of Bitcoin is increasing more and more. The AfD has now also opened up to Bitcoin. And that's really the crazy part, that through these banks, through these terminations and stuff, you're basically pushing people towards Bitcoin. But people are being pushed towards this because banks are basically shutting down. Not that it's completely destroyed here, but often people are becoming even more self-confident. They then have an asset or a valuable resource. We've systemated a monetary good that they can use outside of banks. And that's what more and more people are starting to understand. I mean, I totally get that in today's world, you still need some fiat constructs, that you still need banks and all that. I know exactly what you mean. I have the exact same problem. For example, I have in my LSE. We've systemated Bitcoin Hotel. And now I have the problem, I want to somehow open accounts in the USA or international accounts. And then they just won't take me because they say, okay, it says Bitcoin in your LSE. Now there are others, let's say, bank solutions that are starting to open up for people like that, those unbanked folks. I'm also kind of an unbanked person. So I do have banks, but I open them up before I open the new company here for the YouTube channel. We've systematically get an international account, for example. In the end, that was pretty dumb in hindsight, to be honest, to call it something like Bitcoin LLC or Bitcoin Hotel LLC. We've systematically have done that because then I would have gotten banks. I should have just picked some random fruit bag name instead. If I had preferred to call it Euro Hotel LLC or something like that, then I definitely would have to get a bank. But what I wanted to say and where I was going with this Maybe Alice Weidel has already prepared for the whole scenario with her Bitcoin allocation because she knows there will be more layoffs coming. The system is going to get hit even harder. We've system a lot further. Not just the political people are probably going to be targeted, but also maybe people who then, for example, share something with Bitcoin, or people who share something, let's say any kind of healthy food or whatever, So if you're in a crumbling monetary system, in a failing fiat money system, then you have to try to suppress people somehow who, for example, try to talk their way out of the truth, who, for example, say, hey, folks, get financially educated. Don't leave all your money sitting in the bank. Maybe think about it, I don't know, thoughts. Get into assets that can't be controlled. Bitcoin, or for that matter, gold, silver, that kind of stuff. Of course, the money system is falling apart. Then you first have to stop people from breaking out of the money system. That means you need capital controls. Then you might say, okay, you can only buy 50,000. Buy Bitcoin in euros, China. You're allowed to, only 50,000. We have system dollars in equivalent, I think, per year to transfer abroad and stuff like that. We have system, here it comes us. I mean, I don't want to be all doom and gloom. Could be things change later. Bitcoin is spreading much faster. Donald Trump is now bringing a freedom revolution to the world, and so on. Could be that all swaps pretty quickly. But we still have the transition phase where things can still get very, very turbulent, where you have to take action against politically different thinkers. If you just want to maintain the status quo, they just want to keep the fiat lie going. They just want to keep the socialism lie going. Of course, they also want to keep the whole pharma lie going, where maybe RFK in the US will contribute a lot to that. That means there are a lot of lies. We live in a world of lies, in a fake world. This fake world is indeed the best thing to maintain, I would say. By keeping people who expose the fake world quiet, like those who tell you how it really is, and not just how it looks on TV. That means on TV, they're showing you a completely false picture. And I would say, okay, certain people are bad, they explain to you. Okay. And Nayib Bukele is a dictator. We've system El Salvador, you see, hey, he was elected with like 90%. People think he's pretty cool. And it has very little to do with dictatorship. And so they tell you a whole lot of weird stuff. And if you don't agree with all that weird stuff, then that's basically it. Somewhat okay. But if you open your mouth and say, hey, I have a YouTube channel, I'm doing educational work and so on, I'm explaining to you how the fiat money system works and how money and purchasing power are basically being taken away from you. I'm basically explaining to you how media manipulation creates a false image, a misleading impression of certain things. If you do something like that, then you're very vulnerable. And that's why Bitcoin is even more important, because then you can't be censored. You could, because you might have already set up the structures to be ungovernable here. By the way, I'm still on the Plan B accounts here in El Salvador. Really cool, check out these Bitcoin symbols here. And that's exactly the message you need to take away from here. Bitcoin system is to win, whether you want it or not. And every fight against Bitcoin, against freedom and so on, is just going to drive people more towards Bitcoin. Now is the time when Bitcoin is breaking through, when Bitcoin is winning, and when people are starting to realize that Bitcoin is no longer something dubious, but that it might actually be a necessity by now. At least if you want to move more towards freedom, if you want to move more towards truth, if you want to look behind the scenes about the global players, how they basically manipulate gas and lead people around by the nose. If you still want to buy Bitcoin, I'll put a link down below for you to do it easily and safely. You can easily buy Bitcoin, 21-bit coin. You can get them with the code Bitcoin. Up to 20% off the fees when buying Bitcoin. Now I have a message for you from the Plan B accounts. Check this out. Guys, now something really important. I'm here in El Salvador and I've got Armin with me, and he's really doing some crazy stuff. And the craziest artwork's here from Miadex. Check out Miadex art. What this guy is doing is wild. I already got this bookmark as a gift, and I think it's the coolest bookmark ever. Check this out, Armin. These are vinyl records, vinyl records. Check out the Bitcoin technology. Really crazy, especially the Bitcoin stuff here is ultra wild. And hey, if you want awesome artworks like these, I'll put a link down below for you. Have you checked the homepage? It's right here, mordiotech.com, on the websites. Exactly. Definitely check it out if you want the best Bitcoin art. Guys, see you. Peace out.